So New York City Controller Brad Lander just issued a report on micromobility safety that I think everyone who cares about bicycling and the trend towards motorized bicycles, scooters, and other conveyances here in New York City ought to read. It's very easy to find. Just Google Lander, that's the name of the controller, Lander, micromobility, one word, safety. You'll come right up with it. And it's chock full of these very eye-opening statistics, frankly. What I found particularly interesting is the fact that, it's still just a tiny percentage of the people killed in traffic are killed by anything other than cars. Okay, drivers in cars kill over 200 people a year here in New York City, every year. I think maybe there's somewhere around 5 or 6 pedestrians who were killed by the operators of two-wheeled conveyances. Usually they're motorized. Every other year or so, there's a person, maybe one year there's an outlier, 2 people, who are killed by pedal cyclists who don't have motors on their bikes. So that's like vanishingly low levels of danger from non-motorized pedal cycles. When you compare the fact that cars kill hundreds each year, you can't even compare it. So you got to look at those statistics and then look in the mirror. If you're one of these people who are saying cyclists should have registration and insurance and all the same requirements that motorists have, because bicycles and motorists are like apples and oranges. You don't treat them the same. Let's get real. Another remarkable set of statistics in this study, though, show that there's been, at least percentage-wise, a rather quick increase in the number of deaths involving motorized two-wheeled conveyances, scooters, or e-bikes, or illegal mopeds. You know, before the legalization of mopeds at a certain speed or e-bikes up to 25 miles an hour, there were virtually none. Since the legalization of those conveyances in 2020, it's been climbing up. And what you see is there's actually between 20 and 30 deaths at this point that are attributable to motorized two-wheeled conveyances, excluding full-on motorcycles of the type that we've been calling that for a long time, that have license plates, insurance, etc. So what we see is that the introduction of motorized bicycles has, caused a reason to be concerned about safety. Not so much that pedestrians are getting hurt by them, but the operators of these vehicles are in fact getting hurt and killed by operating them, I think, in an unsafe manner. So we've got to teach people how to ride safely, in addition to riding courteously and appropriately, so that we can all get along in the city. And I think this study takes us a long way. There's a couple of proposals that are out there the study doesn't touch on, though. One of them is put forward by Charles Komanoff, who's really the person behind congestion pricing in New York City, as well as behind a whole bunch of other things, transportation alternatives in the 1980s and 90s, Right of Way, the pedestrian rights organization here in New York City, a number of carbon tax initiatives. Charlie Komanoff is this great mind that we're so lucky to have as part of our livable streets movement here in New York City. Charlie says you could easily curb the problem with e-bikes, not eliminate it, but dramatically reduce it if you would just add a charge based on how far the delivery cyclist is going, right? Because when you look at the data, what you see is that increasingly over the last 2 or 3 years, you have delivery cyclists covering several square miles of territory to deliver food. Well, let me tell you, there are restaurants of every kind, with every different kind of ethnic taste or dietary restriction or type of food that you could want. They're all over in different neighborhoods in New York. You can get Mexican food, Chinese food, Thai food, just every different kind of food you might be interested in. It's near you. So there should be some kind of a charge associated with having an e-bike operator travel miles in order to bring you your tacos. You can get tacos right in your own neighborhood. Best of all, get off your ass and walk to the taco joint. But if you can't muster that, or maybe you're not able to, you can have it delivered, sure, but get it from a neighborhood joint. Don't send someone far and wide with an e-bike, endangering people all along the way. And if you're going to do that, you should pay an extra charge in order to discourage people from doing it, and so that that money can be used to ameliorate some of the safety effects of, having this 60 to 80,000 person e-bike delivery force that we have in New York City, which, they're here because people want their food delivered. Not me personally, but it's extremely popular. I can see that. There's food delivery happening all the time. So it's become a safety issue because it's a crowded city to begin with. And now we've got 60 to 80,000 delivery workers we didn't have 10 years ago. We had a tiny fraction of that. So now we need to think about trying to limit their range and the amount of mileage they cover. The other plan, which is one that comes out of discussions within StreetsPAC from my colleague and fellow StreetsPAC board member Shabazz Stewart, who's the UNI founder and CEO, a bike storage solutions company. Shabazz says, why don't we just have the city take it over? Why don't we, in essence, create a second bike share program that's just for commercial delivery cyclists, that is owned by the city, and that you can lease if you want to do delivery work within New York City? You would be registered with the program, and you would get one of these bikes, which would be maintained in a safe condition by the city, which would be chargeable and charged by the city without posing a risk of fire, and you would have these bikes chipped, so you'd know where everyone was. So if something happened, if somebody hurt someone, which, as we talked about before, does not happen all that often, but if someone did, you would be able to trace that back to that person. You know exactly who was at that scene at that time. And the city could, tweak the program in any way they deem necessary to lower the barriers for people who are just getting started in the business, to try to make sure that it wasn't a big drain on the revenues. It could be revenue positive, could generate money. You would think it would be if you were renting out bikes to people that they could use for this delivery work. And I think that apps should not be permitted to hire people to deliver food within New York City unless they do it through a program like that. The program should be branded like yellow cabs in New York City Taxi. Tourists love to have their pictures taken in front of that. Let's have green bikes or pink bikes, whatever color, that are the official delivery bikes of New York City. And let's manage the program in a safe and rational way instead of some Wild West situation where if you can get your hands on a bike and get your hands on somebody's account with an app, you can just go out and start motoring around the street and doing whatever, you want, basically. I think with training and educational programs for people who would want to register for this kind of a municipally controlled bike share, would you eliminate the danger of e-bikes in the city? No. When the city's this crowded, you cannot eliminate the danger of anything, like falling tree limbs, rat bites from garbage that isn't stored properly. There's all kinds of hazards in the city. We're not going to eliminate any of them, but we could drive it down to a tolerable level. And that should be the plan. So read the Brad Lander report. Learn the facts and the statistics about what is actually causing harm to people out on the streets. By many orders of magnitude, it's four-wheeled motor vehicles, not any kind of bike, motorized or non-motorized. And then think about the kinds of policies that would ameliorate the harm. Think about putting a charge in for people who want to have food delivered for 4 or 5 miles away in New York City when they could get what they need in their neighborhood. Implement it yourself. Buy food in your neighborhood, not from another borough or from many miles away. And think about supporting elected officials who would actually have the nerve and the vision to have the city take over the e-bike delivery system in the manner that I'm describing so that we can regulate it for everyone's safety.